hope you can hear me.
Yes, excellent. Hello, everybody say, hi, Dr. B. Well, you can't hear it, but there's a lot of clacking happening on right now. I swear, I swear. Everybody says hi.
I mean, I can go on my keyboard and start clacking. It's kind of loud.
Just to make yourself be like, oh, this is 1,000 clacks happening at the same
Yeah,
time.
1,000. I am 1,000,000 monkeys on 1,000,000 keyboards.
All right, show off the sweater. You know you wanted
Oh,
to. Hi, Ramirez. Oh, achievement unlocked 25. Purchased ugly Christmas sweater. Adorbsable. It's amazeballs. What inspired you to get an Xbox themed?
well, of the options I saw, and as you alluded to, I am somewhat persnickety on a lot of the things I purchase. A lot of the ugly sweaters out there that are available commercially are not, in fact, really sweaters. They are sweatshirts
Yes.
printed to look like sweaters. And I
A
actually
rip.
wanted a knitted sweater that wasn't printed upon. And so it took me some searching. And of the ones I saw, this one was my favorite. And it got added to my ugly sweater collection.
Yes. Yes. This is why I don't own one yet. I've been trying. Sweaters must be knitted wool, not cheaty ones. Completely agree.
Well,
I've been trying to find one.
I'm down with acrylic. Okay, it doesn't have to
Sure.
be wool. I
Sure.
don't get that persnickety, but it needs to it just needs to be knitted.
Yes. Yes. Somebody said ew, but all right. All right. Not everybody.
Well,
Acrylic never.
well, I get I all of my vests are definitely not synthetic.
Yes. Come on. Psh, psh. Amazing. Everybody, this is Dr. B. Welcome onto the show. Dr. B is the clinical program director for TakeThis. Did I say that right? That was a
Yeah,
mouthful.
I'm the clinical director. Yeah,
I said clinical
make
program.
it a little easier on you.
Okay, clinical director of TakeThis. I know all the things, you guys. I'm a TakeThis ambassador. I would never mess up his title. Come on. Psh, come on. Yes. So he is also an incredible human being. And he himself lives with several, what is the word we used? Mental challenges, right?
Oh,
We,
yeah.
yes, you and I came up, we're like, instead of issues.
Well, I mean, if we're going full Captain Picard on here,
Mhm.
we have issues
Issues on the schedule.
on the schedule.
That's so good. His mic is so good, everybody.
I keep telling you.
If we can get to the halfway goal of $75, which we're currently halfway to, we might get a reading from the incredible
Oh,
Dr.
yes.
B. I'm just saying.
And I have multiple selections at the ready. I've got some Lewis Carroll right here. I have some Shel Silverstein right here. I have some Hans Christian Andersen.
Oh, Hans Christian, 'tis the season to be sad.
Right? No, I've got the originals.
Oh my god.
They're brutal.
They are so sad. All of them are
Little
so
Mermaid
sad.
ain't a happy story.
No, Little Mermaid is bad, but Little Matchstick Girl, I remember reading that as a kid and being like, this ends well. This is going to end well because it's a story. It's going to, and it ends terribly. I don't know that I want to spoil it for anybody. There's a really good Disney animation of it. If you guys want to watch, that's like really well, also with a good score and everything. If you guys want to watch it, but it is heart wrenching. Yes. Anyway, that is not why you're here tonight. Not to talk about sweaters and not to, I mean, you are here to read. If we guys can get to 75, I swear we will have a reading. We can do this, guys.
I'm happy to talk about sweaters and fashion and all that stuff.
Sure. Who needs mental health? Yeah. No, well, she ends up happy, I guess, because heaven is warm. Bliffle! Spoilers on a 100-year-old book at this point.
Bliffle, that's awesome.
It's a Russian fairy tale, right? That never ends well. It's not Russian. Christian Andersen was
Dutch.
Dutch, yeah. Wait, this isn't the sweater convention? Yeah, sorry. If you took a right turn and you ended up here because you thought this was Sweaterville. I mean, I am wearing a hella cute pink sweater as well, but it is not knitted. Did he write it, or is it taken like Grimm's fairy tales? No, he wrote it. It's a It's in Russian. You pronounce a Ganz Christian Andersen. So I always have to stop myself before saying guns and calling them guns, which is like a thing.
Welcome to the Gans Show.
The guns show. Yeah. Yes, he did write Ed Scaramouche Boy. He did. So, Dr. B, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background?
Okay. So I am a doctor of clinical psychology, though I no longer see clients. I travel too much with TakeThis, and the majority of my work these days is educational in nature. Though I trained in I actually trained in the Washington State prison system. I was there for multiple internship rotations, and I thought I was going to end up working in the prison system, but my career took a really sharp left turn when I started volunteering for this little organization called TakeThis in 2014. At the end of 2015, they hired me as the clinical director after our original clinical director stepped back. And yeah, the rest has kind of been history. Additionally, I am also, it's weird to say this, an expert on the applied use of role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons in therapeutic and teaching settings. And so I teach teachers and clinicians how to use tabletop role-playing games and actually other games therapeutically. So while Dr. Coert, she is a research goddess, I wanted to go in a very different direction, and I'm all about the applications of things and all about the community and working with people.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that introduction. And you yourself live with a, or I don't think several, but I'm gonna say a, definitely a. This is, I blame it on the NyQuil, please. Please blame. I don't look sick. I don't sound sick, but makeup is amazing. And then you hear me say nonsense like that. I swear, you do live with mental health challenges. So.
Yeah. So well, especially, let's get the big one out of the way. I was diagnosed at 35 with autism, which explained a lot of the previous 35 years. One of the things it explained was the chronic depression I struggled with, which amazingly hasn't been as much of an issue since my diagnosis with autism. So that's really the big one, is my autism.
Yep. And that's the one that we wanted to focus on a little bit in terms of talking about representation, because I feel like autism is one of those things that has been severely misrepresented and now used as a punchline in movies and TV shows and stuff. And we're not really here to talk about that as much as we are here to talk about games, but still, it's been real, and it's been used as like, it's been used as the quirk. Like, that's kind of how people identify it, as just like the thing that's the quirk. Yeah.
Although I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm probably gonna lean more heavily on other things like movies, because I threw this out to my Twitter following yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of autism representations in video games, what were the ones they loved and that they hated?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the really consistent answers was, consistent with my own experiences, that autistic-esque characters in video games, with a few exceptions, are largely unidentified as such. It's mostly the autism community that sort of takes on or adopts these characters as, like us or like me individually, because autism really is an idiosyncratic presentation across all of us. And it's really in movies and television, for at least my experience, that characters have been overtly identified as having autism. Probably the most prominent example being Rain Man. So I will talk about video games, but I am going to lean on certain other media examples like Newt Scamander.
Are you trying to tell me that mental health exists outside of video games? Because I don't know that you can continue working for TakeThis. That's
we embrace all aspects of geekery.
I'm kidding, of course. Of course. Yeah, Blifflesplick says, yeah, me too. It's weird to know that it's not that you suck at being a human because you're
Mm-hmm.
garbage, but you suck at being social because you have a social disability, and that's okay. Sweet Justice says, yep, once people know I have it, I get treated like a cute puppy and feel insulted. Yes.
Yeah. The I don't know. It's kind of an interesting double-edged sword, and because I like several people I know, I learned to mask my symptoms really well to the point that there's a lot of people who don't even believe me. I have autism.
Oh, boy,
Um,
that's a problem in itself.
oh no, it's tremendous. It's just a tremendous problem. Like I have to prove my own struggle to people. I have to validate my own existence. But speaking to Bliffle's
Mm-hmm.
comment, one of the analogies I like to use to illustrate to people why I struggle with certain things is because I'm on a different operating system. I like to tell people that those of us with autism are Linux in a PC world, and I like to pick up on Linux because it's really idiosyncratic. From what my hacker friends tell me, there's really no Linux system that's the same as any other Linux system. In the same way that when I talk to my friends with autism, while there are certainly similarities to how we experience the world, we still have our idiosyncrasies and how how we see things and how we do. So that's to speak to Bliffle's comment. Yeah, I love the operating system analogy because it also makes people understand that it's not that I'm necessarily broken.
Right.
It's the fact that I just exist in a world that was built for a different OS.
I love that. I love that so, so much. I exist in a world that's built for a different OS. I mean, that tells you everything. That's amazing. So,
So,
yes. So, okay, we talked about Rain Man. I've been hearing
mhm.
a lot about we'll just deep dive into movies and stuff. Let's just
Let's
go.
do this.
Yeah. So I've been hearing a lot about The Good Doctor. Have you watched that?
I watched it once.
Okay.
I won't watch it again.
Oh, okay. Because I literally was sitting at breakfast this Sunday with somebody who's like, and it's just such a good representation for people who are different. And I sat there and I was like, can't get on
It's
a
a
soapbox. Can't get on a
I
soapbox.
Okay. So I will tell you, I watched the pilot,
Okay.
and maybe I'll watch another episode at some point. But I was really hopeful about the pilot because of the cinematography in the first couple of minutes with the airport sequence where he's traveling through an airport,
Hmm.
and the way they represented the sights and sounds of an airport. It brought me to tears because it was so overwhelming the way they presented it that um, I mean, it just hit really close to home because a lot of places for me, well, for those who don't know, a lot of folks on the autism spectrum have sensory idiosyncrasies to varying degrees. For me, I can't shut out sounds. I am so tuned in to noises. It's part of the reason I love music as much as I do, but I have a hard time turning it off. Our human brains generally have this amazing ability to choose what things they focus on, and amazingly to me, have this ability to selectively ignore things that are going on. And I can't do that with noises most of the time. So when they did that sequence in The Good Doctor, it just brought me to tears because it just hit really close to home. But then as they kept going through, they were playing to the stereotype of the savant.
Oh.
And the reality is most of us on the autism spectrum are not savants.
Right. There.
And
Sorry.
no, please.
The thing that was brought to my attention in particular is they were saying, oh well, it's great because they talk about whether or not in one of the first few episodes they talk about whether or not he can be a doctor at all, and I was like, that sounds terrible. Sounds awful. I don't know if that's
Yeah.
trying to be realistic in the representation of what that would be like, or it's hitting too close to home. I don't know.
Well, there was an article I read recently, and I really wish I could remember where it was, but it was written about Greta Thunberg.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what your community is aware of when it comes to Greta Thunberg, but she has called her autism her superpower.
Yes, I have.
Because her special interest, it turns out to be environmentalism, and it's driving forth what she does, and that's fantastic. But this article, this editorial I was reading, brought forth the idea that we celebrate autism when it's useful to society. And when we see the good doctor, he's a savant, and he's literally saving lives. And there are a lot of folks out there whose special interests don't benefit society as overtly. And those people, I see those people largely ignored. For someone who, maybe their special interest is, I don't know, trains. We don't see media talking about that. We don't see characters who are celebrated for that. And that, the ones we see are the ones who are the best in their field. I think about Emily Deschanel when she played Bones. She was the number one, anthropologist, forensic anthropologist there was. So she was the best. And once again, the savantism. And I don't know. Part of me feels like it kind of fetishizes and gives this. When I hear people saying, "Well, at least it's representing people well," well, no,
it's representing like a top layer of
right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. God, I forgot the question. I'm getting in my own headspace here.
No,
and I'm like,
you're
soapbox.
Fine. This is perfect. Soapbox is where you need to be. You guys, don't forget we are raising money for charity. Today's charity is TakeThis. We are raising money for AFK rooms, which are amazing oasis away from convention centers. Somebody asked us a question, and that question is, where does TakeThis usually take their AFK rooms to? And I did say PAX, but is there anywhere else that you guys are like known
for bringing our AFK rooms to?
Yes.
We are definitely at E3, or have been in the past. We are at MomoCon, and we're talking with some other conventions about bringing basically like a franchised, almost AFK room light to their conventions, because and this is me slipping into the pitch for why everybody should donate. The AFK rooms are a massive undertaking. It takes 6 months to a year to make it look like nothing's going on in those rooms, because we actually go in and we do a full evaluation of a convention before we bring an AFK room there. We train their staff on mental health and crisis interactions. And we have to recruit from a network of clinicians, and we always have at least one licensed mental health provider there, not to therapize you, because that's illegal and unethical on a variety of levels, but as well as insurance, insurance, liability insurance and all that, and travel expenses and training costs, because every one of our volunteers, we have almost 1,000 volunteers in our network, all of them are trained to the same standards. And so all in all, each AFK room, a full AFK program, takes about $10,000 to bring it to any convention.
And all of this to have a quiet space where you can color. Like that's how most people are going to perceive it. Right. Yeah.
Right. And we work hard to make it we work really hard to make you not notice how much planning goes into it. And we work really hard to ensure it's just smooth. And we've been doing this for a long time. And that's part of the reason that we really need your support from viewers like you.
It is a PBS situation for sure.
Even $5 can help bring an AFK. This is where it's really nice to have a baritone voice.
It's so gratifying to hear that people do things thoroughly and with a lot of thought. Yeah, AFK rooms are exactly that. And to elaborate on what they are, so it's a quiet room, a little bit away from the chaos of a convention that you can come into, and there are crisis professionals trained in there, and what you can do. Like, I've literally seen people just... Which is fine. It's because it's completely quiet.
we try to discourage long-term napping in there. And there's a couple reasons for that. One, people snore.
Yeah. 3, people drool. Sorry.
Well, but also, if people are napping in there for multiple hours, it makes the room really crowded. And if somebody comes in a crisis, they actually turn around and leave.
Yeah.
So we've got some funny stories about that, but I won't get into that.
That's what we were sitting. So the last time I went to one was at PAX East, and it was incredible. And so I went. I always do PAX like only on Friday or only on Saturday because that's as much as I can handle. And I happened to be with my friend who I was like, you have to, because I know you're going to be here on Saturday, so you should know where this room is. We should find it. And we came in there, and she's like, yo, this is dope. We're just going to color. I was like, yeah. And we were sitting, and we were coloring and like decompressing, and it was awesome. And this one kid next to us started snoring. That's exactly what was going on. Like we're coloring and then just slowly. Yeah. I like to be
I'm gonna be fighting with this for a moment. I need a new microphone.
Oh, does it go?
If it syncs on me, yeah, I'm just gonna catch it and try and get it to hold still.
It's all good. I like to be thorough, but it means tasks don't get completed quickly, and that bothers many people.
Yeah, I know that idea of good enough is that's a tough line.
It's tough. Okay, so let's get back to
autism.
Yes.
Video games.
So
they're awesome.
They are. But I also wondered about, and there's a lot of Potterheads in here, so I think this will hit a few notes.
If you bring up who I think you're going to bring up.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Newt Scamander, definitely.
Oh, Newt.
Oh, Newt. Is he? That's another character that nobody says that he's on the autism spectrum.
Oh, they don't say he's so autistic.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm claiming him as one of ours.
Yeah. Okay. I just thought he was a Hufflepuff. He had it, that was
not all of us are Hufflepuffs.
Oh, see, that's bad for me. I can't believe I just did that. Just assuming everybody's a Hufflepuff like that.
Not all of us are a Hufflepuff.
But Newt is.
Newt made me want to be a Hufflepuff.
Oh, are you trying to tell me you're not a Hufflepuff? Because I will fight you. You're not?
No,
what are you supposed to be?
It was generally decided upon that I am a Gryffindor.
Okay. Nah, you're a Hufflepuff in my eyes, but that's fine. That's fine. You can be a Gryffindor. You can walk around life knowing you're a Gryffindor. That's fine.
Yeah. Well, you and I were privately chatting earlier today, and I think you can understand where my Gryffindor qualities.
Yeah. No. The more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm like, yeah. But I do see Ravenclaw too, Bliffle. I do. And pigeonholing. Tisk. I know. Oh my gosh. I really wish people had a Sims like plus or minus indicator when socializing. Oh
my God, yes. Oh, I would love that so much.
So helpful.
So much. Yeah. This is actually that's part of the reason I love my friends from New York and Boston, because there is like no ambiguity with them. If they're angry with me, they're willing to say, I'm angry at you, and I'm like, okay, I can work with this.
Yeah, I know what to do.
Right.
That's amazing.
But what do you want to talk? Newt, let's talk.
Yeah, let's talk about Newt, and then Tardy Microbe asked about Sheldon Cooper. We'll talk about all of those. Yeah.
You'll have to cut me off. I have thoughts on the Big Bang Theory.
You have I have so many thoughts. They're not positive. I'm gonna say it right now. Yeah.
But yeah, Newt. Let's talk Newt.
Let's go.
What do you want to talk about, Newt? I love Newt.
Yeah, so he's well represented, is what I'm grabbing at.
Yeah. So the first time I ever saw, I saw the first Fantastic Beasts movie. It was amazing. It was so amazing. I was on an airplane and I just started sobbing because here I was realizing this is a character with special interest. I mean, clearly he has a special interest that he just delves into wholeheartedly. He doesn't make eye contact with people easily. He's often looking down and looking away from people. But not only and sometimes they asked about his peculiarities, but they asked about it in a really matter-of-fact way. Like, what's up? He answers the question and they move on. He's not shamed for being different, at least not that I recall. And beyond that, he not only is a hero, but he's lovable and he gets the girl.
He does. He does get the girl. I forgot about that.
And it's amazing to me. It was amazing for me to realize that I may start crying here. That that was the first time I ever saw somebody who had those kind of peculiarities represented in a way that wasn't stigmatizing.
Yes.
And that was,
he's the hero.
He's the hero.
Yeah. This is Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, Tally.
I have a hard time talking about that because it was one thing for me to see characters like Data growing up.
Yes.
From Star Trek: The Next Generation, but Data was constantly trying to be something he wasn't. He was constantly trying to be human, and I identified with that because I've learned over the course of my life to somewhat in a very tongue-in-cheek manner, I speak normie. But as a friend of mine on the autism spectrum says, I'm almost fluent, but I speak with a thick accent.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot.
But Newt was just Newt, and that was okay. And that was maybe the first time, especially after my diagnosis at 35, that I saw someone who was different and who I saw as on the autism spectrum or whatever the Wizarding World equivalent is, who was just unabashedly himself and was a hero for it. And to anybody who doesn't believe representation matters, I just started sobbing on that plane. I still have to contain the tears now just thinking about it.
That's so powerful. Is there anybody that comes close to that otherwise?
It's hard. You know what? It's hard for me to think about in that respect because when it comes to TV and movies, I haven't really seen it yet. When it comes to video games, I can't really think about it because I mean, when you think about like Overwatch, and Symmetra.
Yes, Symmetra. They I think the developers, right, just came out and said, "Hey, by the way."
Right. But they don't really get into a three-dimensional representation of mental health or developmental disabilities for her. It's just kind of like most of the characters in Overwatch. It's just kind of a thing. And they throw it in for backstory, and that's great. That's awesome to have someone with autism who's powerful. That's amazing. The fact that she's a woman of color on top of that, party bonus on that fact. But there's not a ton of examples of overtly autistic characters that I could think of personally. Now, the Twitter response, one of the games that kept coming up was To the Moon, which I know Cherry Ray was in chat earlier, and they do an amazing job of being a vocal advocate for a variety of inclusive identities. And I have not played To the Moon yet. I really, really want to because I know Cherry Ray loves To the Moon.
I'm writing it down for myself. That's awesome.
And it was mentioned by a couple of folks in my feed that was another one to really pay attention to. So I'm looking forward to playing that. But yeah, it's not overtly done generally in video games that I'm aware of.
Is that better or worse? Like, do you want people to have a name on it like they did for Symmetra? Yeah. They came out, or
I really do.
Yeah, you do.
I want them to do it well, and I want them to have a name on it because as powerful as Newt as a character is for me, there's still an argument of is he autistic? And I would love to be able to point to a character like that and say, yeah, he is, or she is, or they are. I don't care.
Right.
I want somebody who is overtly autistic, labeled as such, who represents it well, and for me to be able to point to and say, that's my hero right there.
Right. And for kids, right? For
Absolutely.
kids coming up seeing that. I mean, J.K. Rowling has gotten quite a bit of slack, though. Flack.
Who has?
J.K. Rowling for coming out and being like, this character is actually this,
Yeah.
and this character is this, and actually, did you know? Like, just kind of throwing it on there, toppling it, and people are like, that's not doing anybody any favors, really.
Right. And I mean, we can get into the nitty gritty of that. That's a whole nuanced can of worms to be opened, and there's a lot of things that could be said about the Potter universe. But I would love for a video game to have a hero who was autistic, who wasn't I will say Dustin Hoffman, when he portrayed the character in Rain Man, he did a good job of portraying somebody who has pretty significant autistic features, who requires round the clock care. And there are certainly those on the autism spectrum who have that level of needed care, but that's not all of us. And so I would love to see someone who is overtly autistic, but who's also a hero that we love and we can identify with, and who isn't ostracized for just being them. And I just want them to be overt about it.
But it's interesting because it doesn't seem like, and somebody's saying this in chat, and I agree with it, it doesn't seem like they're overt about any of these mental health challenges. And again, for better or worse. And on one hand, I would rather they just represent somebody with depression and not necessarily put a name on it, like to talk about what I know. Or so KG Glitter made I really like the reference, which is I feel like that with Jake in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, amazing representation of ADHD. Wish they'd say he had it on the show. He clearly struggles with ADHD challenges.
Oh my God, yes.
But he's wonderful at his job and gets the girl and is accepted and appreciated by peers, not in a non-stigmatizing way. Yes,
right.
Usually when it is mentioned, it is in a stigma. Like when they do put a name on it, it's usually attached to strong stigma. But if we just say Jake is quirky, that's a lot easier for people to swallow than thinking, hey, Jay's quirky because it's not really quirks, it's his ADHD is disabling him from being able to do certain things.
Well, in certain ways. And this is a way that you and I have a mutual friend, Jessica McCabe, who has the YouTube channel How to ADHD, and she and I have actually talked about this. That someone who struggles with a diagnosis, just because they have a deficit in one area doesn't mean they have a deficit in all areas.
My God.
And the analogy that I'm going to totally steal from Jessica is like a D&D adventuring party. That just because you have somebody who has, let's say you have a wizard, you don't throw a wizard into combat and expect them to be a knight. You don't expect the wizard to be a tank. You expect the wizard to be good at what they're good at. And with any sort of developmental diagnosis, whether it's autism or dyslexia, dyspraxia, anything, you can't go in expecting someone to do what they can't do, but it doesn't mean they can't do other things. And that's one of the reasons I actually love Jake from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He's off the wall sometimes, and I love him for it, but he's a good cop.
Right.
And they learn to use him for the strengths that he's good at. Instead of believing that he has global deficits because he struggles in some areas. To use an analogy from my own neuropsych eval, when I got diagnosed with autism, what I tell people about like my cognitive abilities, sorry if this sounds a little bragging, but
go.
Sorry. Like my hard drive is amazing.
Yeah.
Top of the line hard drive.
Yeah.
Oh my God, my hard drive's awesome. My graphics card, top of the line.
Yeah.
My CPU sucks, and
Yeah.
so does my RAM. And
I've
so,
actually said that my processor isn't great.
yeah,
Like it's a quad.
yeah,
I've said that. So with ADHD, it's a
yeah,
quad core processor that can only use one of the cores at a time, and the other
yeah,
three. It's not that they're. It's not that I'm not using them. They just need to be full of something else, whether that's background
right,
thinking, music, people chatting. Like something else needs to fill them. Otherwise, the whole
right,
computer starts going. Like the whole
right,
point is that all four need to be filled and utilized. Otherwise, the
right.
computer is not working
Yeah, and
properly.
I love the fact that your chat gets this analogy
Oh
that
yeah, they're
immediately
going
they're
into
like
it.
bottlenecked. And yeah, so like for me, and I'm really fortunate that I work with people who are able to see and appreciate where my strengths are. I got to give a shout out to our executive director, Eve Crevichet
Woo,
at Take.
Eve! Sorry.
Eve, one of Eve's greatest strengths as a manager and just as a human being is her ability to see the strengths for people and utilize them where they're good.
Mhm.
And Eve is so good at recognizing people's quirks and then just kind of working around them. Um, and so she's able to actually work with me really well when one half of my brain can't keep up with the other half,
Mhm.
or when I'm getting caught in a thought loop,
Mhm.
or she's really good at doing that. And that's one of those things I would love to see in video games.
Yes.
I would love to see other characters treat people with treat people with autism or other neurodiversity labels the way my boss treats me.
Yeah. Period. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
that's
and the
not
way
something
my
you get to
colleagues
say
treat me.
often. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I would love to see in video games going forward. I would love to see a hero where their autism and their quirks were just a thing,
Yeah.
and maybe they have they think their skill sets that they can't do, but they also have their things that they can do.
Yeah, just
And I would
focusing on yeah, kind of exposing here is
right,
what they can't do, but look at all the things they
right,
excel and really
right.
honing in on that. But you do need in order to get that three-dimensionality, you do
Mhm.
need that here's what they're not great at. But then that makes this thing even more valuable because it's the
Right.
thing they do that really well. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And you know, we can get into this because now, I mean, this gets into a, you know, a medical model of disability versus a social model of disability versus a charity model of disability, and that's a whole conversation unto itself. I mean, we could get on that soapbox for an hour on its own.
uh
But yeah.
yeah.
Great.
Let's go to
Crystal Dawn, I can see the high functioning autism being there. My brother is autistic spectrum. I'm like, oh really? What are you seeing?
Oh, I want to know too.
Ooh,
Yeah. How do we
I'm really
donate?
curious.
Exclamation donate, please, and follow the link and donate. You are donating to AFK Rooms research, podcasts, research papers being published on the matter. One of the biggest ones is the white paper that recently came out that TakeThis published. It is 40
Oh God.
something pages, if I'm not
Oh no,
mistaken.
60.
60.
60.
I'm so sorry.
Um
Where did the
no,
20
no, that
pages
was
go?
a behemoth.
Yeah.
That we thought that was going to take a month, but it took 8.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, that thing was an absolute behemoth to write.
Yeah, yeah, no, but it's beautiful. It's
Oh
literally
yeah.
beautiful. You're very
Oh
talkative and communicative compared to some on the autistic spectrum that are more
yes.
withdrawn.
Well, and I'll speak to that actually. I love people. I love people. But one of the things I I also love an audience.
Sure.
You know, I'm a natural born performer.
Yeah.
But there
That's
is
what makes you a good dungeon master too.
I'd like to think so, but thank you. But one of the what I'll say to that is when I get really comfortable with someone, I actually talk a lot less. I will sometimes not talk at all. And Bliffel's right. If you talk about a special interest, you know, a lot of us on the spectrum will, in fact, talk your ears off. Now, you just happen to be interviewing me about one of my special interests.
Right. It's perfect. Well, I'm not
Yeah.
complaining because this is going very well.
I love people. I find people fascinating.
Yeah.
And one of the ways, and, you know, Crystal Dawn, one of the ways I actually learned to mask a lot of my autism. And that, again, that's a discussion unto itself, whether people on the spectrum should do that, shouldn't do that. I do. And it gives me some advantages and also some disadvantages. Um, that one of the ways I do that is I'm really good at spotting patterns in people. I'm really good at mimicking patterns in people. And so it's funny when I interact with people, and I've had enough experience with literal trial and error in my teen years, that a lot of my social interactions are like an infographic in my head, or as a friend of mine puts it, a telltale games decision tree.
Oh, I love that. You know, I have described things like that though. I've definitely described. I once tried to explain that to somebody where I was like, it literally feels like they were like, well, why do you feel like you can't accomplish A or B? And I was like, because it literally feels like I have to envision every
Mm-hmm.
single scenario and then
Right.
every result of every scenario before I can
Right.
give you an answer. And before I get
Right.
that far down that rabbit hole, you got to catch me and pull me back up.
Right. Well, and also, if I haven't experienced something, then it's new situations, especially emotionally charged situations, I will shut down.
Yeah.
But I've, at this point in my life, I've experienced a lot of social situations, and I've been through a lot of social situations, and I've come up with scripts. That the cool thing about that is I can also play with them and deviate from them, and that's basically what humor is a deviation from the expected social scripts in ways that people find amusing.
So KG Glitter asks, what does your masking entail?
Um, learning scripts and mimicking them, and learning behavioral patterns and mimicking them.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a controversial thing. I will admit this is a controversial thing. But I'm going to speak only for me. I think that if I can speak, again, it's a tongue-in-cheek way of referring to it, but normie, if I can speak that fluently enough to communicate what my autism is like to other people who don't have autism and get them to listen to it, I think it's my responsibility to do so.
That's beautiful.
And there is evidence to say that masking wears on folks on the autism spectrum. And when we're not allowed to express ourselves fully, that it's linked to certain to higher rates of, I think, anxiety and depression. I think it's my responsibility to walk that line the best I can and communicate to everybody else what autism, at least for me, is like.
Mm-hmm. So what's your natural way of communicating? Or after masking for so long, is it really possible for you to communicate naturally the way you would have if you hadn't learned to mask?
I mean, that's a really interesting and nuanced question, KG Glitter, because I mean, one, I was diagnosed so late in life that I'm not sure, but my natural state is pretty, for lack of a better term, squishy. I'm kind of a squishy soul. I care about things really deeply, and I care about things completely. Mm-hmm. And I feel very strong emotions. I mean, I saw it a little earlier when just talking about I'm a crier.
Oh no! If only I wasn't a hugger. Okay.
Hugging's weird.
Hugging. So how do you feel about
weird.
hugging? Because Dr. Cowart mentioned earlier that hugging is something that you're really good at. So is that something that like you mind? Is that something that is a masked thing that you've learned?
I practiced.
Yeah, you practiced. You're like, this is hugging. Did you use pillows or people or just over time?
Oh, people. Over the years. They want to hug. Okay, let's try out this different strategy.
Well, you're really good at it. So.
I mean, I certainly do it for certain people. It is a genuine expression. Oh my goodness! I think we just got a donation.
Oh my gosh!
No, we did.
KJ Glitter, thank you so much for the $20. Oh my goodness! Please tell me after we are done with Dr. B. I'm going to stay on so I can finish up the postcards. So you get one of these beautiful postcards. I will send it over to you. Please tell me what colors you would like for me to use to make an abstract art, or I can draw whatever the heck you want. I will attempt to draw whatever you want. KG Glitter, thank you so much. With your $20, you just got us
If we get another $20, I will do story time.
That's true. Another $20 we'll do story time. Okay, that $20 got us 2 coloring books. Or, yes, 2 coloring books for the AFK room. Or potentially, if you want to look at it as $30 plus $20, because we have 56, we have served 1 person in the AFK room. Yes. Yes. Exclamation email to get my email so that you can send me your address so that I can send you one of these beautiful postcards once I make it. I'm not good at mail. It would end up in my bathtub. That's really adorable.
Isn't that what bathtubs are for?
Yeah. It's a postcard, so you literally can rip it up as soon as you get it, but I want to send you one and at least send you like a thanks on it or something. But see, I love hugs, but not from parents or certain relatives. I will hug a significant other or a close friend.
This is something that I have a hard time explaining to people because I have a hard time even understanding it myself. And I actually had a Twitter thread about this earlier. It's called alexithymia, and it's difficulty in recognizing emotions or emotional states in ourselves and other people. And a lot of folks on the autism spectrum have alexithymia to varying degrees, and so affection is weird. Like I don't have any other way of putting it, but like affection is weird. When people try it, they express affection at me. It like takes me about a month to catch up, and I'm like, okay, yes, no, that was nice.
I can attest to that. We both had a hard time processing it, but maybe you are harder still because of the whole TwitchCon where I got to know you was for both of us was for lack of a better word, a mind fuck. I don't really know how else to put it. That's how I'm confused the whole time. Yep. Yes.
It was so funny afterwards for those of you who don't know this. So after this, thanked me for letting her hang out with me during that TwitchCon, and the whole time at that TwitchCon, I'm clinging on to her because of like, I know you're familiar, you are an anchor for me right now.
But you have to understand, Raffael is this like Dr. B is this very, very tall dude, right? And I'm a tiny little blonde girl at a convention, and so minus stature plus he has this booming voice, right? You guys can hear like the bass in his voice. There's a lot of like soothing aspects to hanging around him before you even get to know his loving, wonderful personality. So I was very much like, I'm gonna hang out with this tall man who could potentially protect me. And he's really freaking smart, so I'm gonna just try to soak in everything he's saying. And I was just like, I was literally hanging on to your every word, like taking mental notes.
Oh.
And so I was like, thank you for letting me use you as a human experiment. And you're like, what?
Thank you for letting me use you as an anchor, so I didn't like freak out.
It was, and then so that's a beautiful thing. So if you ever feel like you are a burden to somebody, keep in mind that they might think they're a burden to you. So talk about it.
I felt guilty. I was like, oh my God, I'm using you as a human anchor. Oh my God, I hope I'm not imposing.
I felt guilty. I was like, oh no, I'm making him buy food now, and I don't know if you wanted food. And then I hear that God. Like like that was good. You wouldn't have eaten otherwise. I'm like, okay.
I wouldn't have.
Yeah. I also followed some tall dudes around PAX. Yeah, dude, that's the way to go. You were also protecting him, but so beautiful friendship was born that way. Is the point?
I adore you.
Yeah. Like a giant teddy bear who may or may not have a sword.
I don't carry weaponry into conventions. That's just wrong. That's just wrong.
But why?
Well, honestly, because I'm big enough that most people just steer clear.
Yeah, they just would walk away, and I was right behind him. It was great because he could part through the sea of people. It worked out really well for both of us, I think. And then I would start conversations, and then he would jump in, which I was like,
bless you for that.
That was amazing because I was on that side going, oh my God, he probably thinks I'm talking so much, and then you told me, you were like, thank God you were talking so much.
Thank you. Like Hagrid, I'll take it.
I'll take it. Like Hagrid. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'll take it.
I use other people as social shields. Here, talk to them. I'll butt in when I want to.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Bliffle gets it.
Oh my gosh, we got another donation.
We did.
Someone named Zen donated another $10. Then
My
please,
goodness.
that is amazing. $10 is at least, well, now we have enough to serve 2 people in an AFK room. So thank you so much for that.
Yay.
That is incredible. We are $10 away from Dr. B reading a story, and you guys can hear his voice is very, very soothing. So, and if you send me your address, I will send you a postcard with a thank you for, just with a thank you. Yes. So I'm very falling. Oh my God, these are all so brilliant. And I'll get to color while you do that. It works really, really well. The number 66 makes me think of Star Wars. Hey, whatever makes you think of, as long as it makes people think of donating. Thank you so much for everybody who's contributed. Every penny counts. I appreciate you all so much. This is incredible. You are literally feeding Dr. B. He nourishes on research. Just go with it. He nourishes on research, and he will not be able to eat any research if you guys do not donate. So it's amazing. Gamer Brian, hi.
I sustain myself on donations. Gems feed me.
I hope everyone is doing well. We're happy you're here. The guilt pitch works every time. Sorry guys, but okay. Mwah, Tally, keep hold of your spoons that you have left. Have a wonderful, wonderful night, and I will see you again tomorrow, sunshine. Crystal Dawn says, I suck at communication and expressing emotion in my mind's eye, so I do my best when trying to communicate my thoughts. Yes, a lot of people. Yes. That's funny because I honestly say I get intellectually ravenous and go on info binges. I do think that's a thing, yeah.
Absolutely. I do that. I put myself to sleep by wiki walking every night.
Oh my gosh, that's adorable.
Yeah.
That's adorable. I learn things to sleep better.
I start like, ooh, and that's a link. Click on that. All right. Interesting. That's another venomous animal in Australia. Good to know.
Good to know what to avoid.
Magpies are trying to kill me in Australia too. Hey, look at that fantastic little beaver duck looking thing. It's also venomous. Got it. Little nails. Okay.
Sweet Justice says, hey, we have cute animals here in Australia.
Yeah, the cuter they are, the more venomous they are.
The more deadly.
Because they don't have to hide.
We did have a question from Tally, and I know she's hopping off, but she might watch this later. So, how powerfully it's obvious that powerfully affected you, meaning Newt Scamander. Have you ever let the film producers know how the representation of the character affected you?
You know, I haven't. Maybe I will at some point.
You should, and maybe J.K. Rowling will come out and finally come out with it that Newt is autistic.
That would be lovely.
Yeah.
To find out Newt is autistic.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I've never actually let the film producers know that, but I probably should at some point.
That'd be fun.
I'll rewatch it, have a good cry, and do that. And, I'm in the mood for crying. I'll watch David Tennant and Matt Smith's last Doctor Who episodes as well, and just really put it over the top.
Oh, that's really good. Not watching puppies reunite with soldiers from Afghanistan. That's not what does it. No.
Dogs. Meh.
Meh.
I'm indifferent.
I know. It's one of the things that we don't agree on that I just let slide.
Listen, I don't dislike dogs. I don't.
They're just
dislike
not your jam.
them.
They're just.
I just. They're so aggressively friendly.
Yes, but
like
that's me, and you like me very much.
Yeah, I like you very much. You also know when to back off.
Okay, that's fair. My dog does not know when to back off. No. But that's why I need my dog, because it lets me give it as much affection as I have coming out of me at any given moment. Have you ever seen a quokka? Sweet Justice asked. No venom in that ball of fluff. Right.
Yeah, they also they were on the western coast of Australia on an island that had 0 predators, right?
Oh, well that works out. I mean, maybe tonight you can spend the evening researching quokkas. I'm just saying.
I've looked up. They're happy. They're the happiest animals.
Yeah. KG Glitter, I actually taught my dog the command "go away." It's useful. I can't believe that. I find that very hard to believe. I'm actually a human corgi, Dr. B. Dawnstar, you're not wrong.
I mean, we knew that.
Yeah, that's not wrong. I always said my Patronus would either be, speaking of Harry Potter things, would either be an otter or a corgi for sure.
I think I got a swan.
Oh, I got a muskrat.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean it's great, but it just doesn't speak to me as much as I know like a corgi coming out of a wand. Please, please, that would scare the crap out of some dementors. Get them right out of there. Yeah. Oh, there's some in the zoo. Oh, I just like the word quokka. That's funny. That
They
it's
are
named
they
a
are
quokka.
very cute.
That's
They are
adorable.
if you ever see those internet memes or those clickbait articles about come see the happiest animal you've ever seen,
Yeah, yeah,
and they
yeah.
just look like they're smiling, that's a quokka.
That's a quokka. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh. You got a robin, Bliffle?
that's awesome.
I think husbando got a salmon. Somebody I know had a salmon, and
Okay,
we were
you know
all like,
what?
"What?"
Being from Seattle,
I
much
mean,
respect for the salmon.
listen, I eat a boatload of salmon. I don't know that as a Patronus it's very intimidating, but that's all I mean. What is Dr. B's spirit animal?
Well, I'm going to answer that a little differently. I tend to eschew the use of the term spirit animal
Okay.
because I think that is often a misunderstood appropriation
Mm-hmm.
from various indigenous tribal beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but if you're asking what my Patronus is,
Mm-hmm.
um, then officially I believe it's a swan.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
In terms of what animal I just straight up identify with,
Yes.
probably there are certain North American weasels that are pretty erratic. but really ironically, I think a lot of the folks that take this would probably say I'm a golden retriever.
Oh,
Um,
so puppy.
well,
Did you say
because
weasels? Yes, he said weasels. Yes.
yeah, a certain of I think of the family Mustelidae,
Mm-hmm.
but they're also ridiculously erratic weasels. But I think a lot of some of my colleagues at Take This would say a golden retriever because I get fixated on ideas and people and principles. I'm like, no, that's not right. We must fix that.
Right. I could see that. I could see that.
Well, I'll jump in with the a while back we had a question going around like our company Slack about a year ago, like which Avenger would you be?
Ooh.
And there was a lot of debate on certain people, like
Uh-huh.
was so and so, what character would they be, and da da da. When the discussion came to me, there was no hesitation, and it was just straight up across the board.
Captain America?
It
Nailed it. Oh, I
yeah.
wouldn't doubt that for a second. Yeah, the very, very strong moral belief that you will go through hell and high water to uphold. Yes.
Yeah. There was that's part of the golden retriever thing as well.
Have you ever been compared to any fictional characters? Asked Sweet Justice.
um does Jim Carrey count?
Really?
Oh yes. Oh, when I'm not on camera, and even sometimes when I am on camera, I'm silly as all get out.
Well, I don't
um,
doubt that you're silly. I just
I'm
Jim
a
Carrey
cartoon
level of silliness. Yeah,
oh no, I'm
cartoon
a
character.
cartoon character. Oh my goodness, right now I'm in professional mode.
Got it.
But if this was not professional mode,
Sure.
I would probably be, wearing something on my head, wrapping it around it, and maybe going around singing "Matchmaker, Matchmaker, make me a match." Um, and this is when I'm alone. I'm not
Right.
doing that for anybody with me, but anybody but me.
Right. Oh my gosh. This is Mixer. You could do that here. Well, he is going to be streaming. Actually, in a few short minutes, we have to let you go.
Yeah,
Okay. Oh my
yeah.
gosh. Oh my gosh. We got to run through questions. Lightning round.
Yes. Let's do
Okay.
questions. Lightning
Lightning round.
round.
So, what kind of practice?
Round two.
What kind of practical challenges do you come up with? Again, setting up an AFK room at a convention.
Okay, what practical challenges? Well, there's a lot of conventions out there who for lack not through their own fault, but maybe just inexperience, or they just don't have it's a fan run convention and they're not used to top down organization, that maybe their training or the way they organize things isn't really tight enough to have an AFK room without turning it into a crisis clinic. And the AFK room is not a crisis clinic.
Right.
And that's why we go in and do a full programmatic evaluation of shows before we can even bring an AFK room to a convention. There are a lot of conventions we've gone to that, one, they can't support an AFK room, or they don't actually need one, because an AFK room, I mean, that is a comprehensive wraparound program for both the staff and the attendees. And some
That's a good point.
And some are just small enough that they don't need a full AFK room. And so with our reports, we go in and we tell them that, like, hey, if you want an AFK room, cool, but we don't think you need one. If you want to bolster your mental health accessibility, here are some suggestions. We can help you with that. Sometimes it's just training that they need, and we offer that training. So, practical considerations, availability of clinicians as volunteers. If we don't have an established network in a city, it takes us about a year or two to really establish one. Our first AFK rooms in a location, they take about a year to plan, because we need a network of clinicians to get as volunteers.
Wow. So you have clinicians and non-professionals, right? As volunteers.
There's always at least one licensed mental health provider at every shift on an AFK room. And that's not because we want to therapize you. We're not going to do that. But a licensed provider, especially with the training we give them, know how to talk to people in an empathic and validating manner that doesn't cross the line into providing treatment in an unethical and illegal way. So yeah, that's part of the reason we have them there.
Got it. Okay, so there's one that's a little bit more deep dive, so I'm skipping through them. I'm not asking them in order. Okay. Just wondering, is TakeThis know about RAD, Rise Above the Disorder? Yes, they do. They do different things. They do different things. TakeThis is focused on research. RAD is focused on finding providers. That's really...
Well, sort of. Okay, so TakeThis is focused on education.
Okay.
And destigmatizing. RAD is focused on providing direct treatment resources in financial compensation, and they have an amazing network of people. I can't say enough good things. They do different things than we do, and they're an incredibly valuable presence in terms of the game mental health space.
Yeah,
we provide education, they provide financial resources to get people treatment. We don't do treatment.
Yes. KJ Glitter asks, how else can they help other than financially? How else can somebody get involved?
Well, you can always volunteer, but I got to tell you, financially, for any nonprofit, that really is the best way to help, regardless of whether it's a food bank, something like us, because we know how to spend the money effectively. And we need money in order to do the programs that we want. Our ambassador program wouldn't exist if we like, how do you donate if you win the lottery? Well, you can always go to TakeThis.org and donate, and you can do that at any time whatsoever.
Yes.
Again, that's TakeThis.org.
Yep.
And you can always follow us on Twitter at TakeThis.org, or on Facebook at TakeThis.org. If you sense a theme.
Yes. And if you ever forget any of those things, you come on by to me, and I will send you to those things. All of them is
good.
Yeah,
it's really good.
Very easy peasy. We make it easy for you. Yes. But first, win the lottery. That would be very good for you. That's amazing.
Yes, I would love to do that. I would love to pay off my student loans.
That's same. People, on Twitter sometimes are like, "What would you do with $1,000?" It's like, it would all go into my student loan. It doesn't sound like
$1,000. It would go away,
yeah. That's $1,000 is less than 2 student loan payments for me, but it would definitely do a great job of hitting the spot there. Yeah, no complaints.
2 months. Yeah,
a couple of months that I could be like, "Whew, okay."
Ridiculous.
Yes.
Oh my God. But really, financial donations are probably the best way to help out any nonprofit, and certainly ours, because our educational efforts require staffing. And if we didn't have a certain level of financial support, we couldn't have our ambassador program with a program manager. And our staff is super small.
Yes.
Super small.
Yes.
We've got really only three full-time-ish people.
Yes.
Everyone else is extremely part-time, and even everybody else is like 4 more people.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's the more money we have to support staff, that's the more bandwidth we have to create content and have more educational efforts.
Oh, my dream is to be able to work for you guys, but that means a lot of things have to happen first, but that is like a dream.
Oh, we would love to have a much bigger staff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so now a few longish questions. I know we're over time. Do you want to answer them?
I'm gonna tell Dr. Kelly Dunlap that I'm still answering questions. I'm gonna tell her right now.
Okay, all right. Because that's who we're rating next. So
Yeah. Oh.
yeah, of course.
I think we're playing Stardew Valley.
In a co-op? Are you guys making your own farm?
Oh yeah. Oh no, we're co-oping it.
Yes.
I think Dr. Kelly's never played Stardew Valley. I am old hat. Right?
Well, at least she's catching up. At least she's catching up here. Oh my goodness. Okay. What about Sheldon Cooper from Big Bang Theory?
Okay. Big Bang Theory just as a show.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like the humor of that show because the humor was largely at the expense of the people who are different.
Mm-hmm.
And we, especially in the early seasons, the humor was set up to empathize with Penny.
Yes.
Look at her having to deal with these weird guys.
Right.
And there I was. I mean, I was looking at these guys, and they were a lot like me in a lot of respects. And it was once again a reminder of feeling like the other,
right,
in society, where they're laughing at people like me at their expense, and I couldn't get down with it.
Isn't that still helpful to relate though? Like, because I on some level related to not Sheldon, the other guy, Leonard. I on some level related to Leonard, and that helped me. Like that show, I stopped watching it in college, but it did help me through high school. I did feel
If you're down with it, then cool. I'm gonna speak only for me.
I'm not down with it anymore for specifically the reasons that you talked about, but it did help me at some point. But I want to hear your opinion.
They weren't good to women in that show.
No, they were not.
They really weren't. And it's great that they were using references that I get, like if they're joking about Lord of the Rings. But I think there was one episode I saw where they were all going for a particularly obscure piece of Lord of the Rings merchandise, and they all were like holding on to it, and the first one who let up their hands would lose, and the last person holding on to it would win. And there was everybody making fun of them for it, for their enthusiasm and all of that.
Right.
And there was another episode where Sheldon and all the guys were going to a memorial service for a colleague of theirs at the university who had died, and they were all competing for his tenure slot.
Oh, I remember that episode.
Right. And then before they even go in, there was Sheldon's significant other, I forget her name, but played by Mayim Bialik,
mm-hmm.
who real life neuroscience PhD.
Mm-hmm.
And before they even get in, she just turns and sternly drills him on social niceties. When we go in, we say, "I'm sorry for your loss." We do not laugh at things. We do not comment on the body. And they're just drilling this, and we're laughing at them.
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment, we're laughing at them for him not understanding social niceties.
Right.
And as they did identify him on the autism spectrum, I believe later on, once again, we're using that difference as the butt of a joke.
Right.
And it's not coming, it's one thing. It's one thing if I make fun. I mean, whatever in groups we belong to, we can make fun of ourselves.
Sure.
That's okay.
Sure.
That's okay. But when it's other people making us the butt of the joke, it's just a different dynamic. It's punching down.
Mm-hmm.
And as my favorite author, Terry Pratchett, said, when you're punching down, that's not humor, that's just bullying.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, that's why I walked out of Napoleon Dynamite, because there was a group of girls shriek laughing at every awkwardness. There is definitely a thing in our culture where we make fun of people who don't get it. That's a punchline,
right.
you know. A lot. I mean,
Sure.
Data was the comedic relief in some aspects of Star Trek. I mean,
in a lot of respects, but loving. I like Data because it was loving and they accepted him.
Yes, it was not. Yes, it was not punching down. It was
right.
Yes.
And the characters were really loving about helping Data with his goals of trying to be more human. Humor. I was thinking about the episode where he was trying to learn humor.
Oh, that was a good one.
It really was. But yeah, he was the source of humor, but I think in a more loving way.
I agree. It was very much like, okay, now we're going to correct Data in a nurturing way, not
just matter of fact point things out, like, dude.
Right.
one of my favorite episodes was in season 4, I think episode 11, Data's Day, where they really focus on him and his interaction with Chief O'Brien and his at the time fiance Keiko, as they're going to get married. And there's Data interpreting things very literally, like her saying, it would make me happy if we call off the wedding, and Miles will understand. And so he's like, okay, taking it literally, go, to Chief O'Brien. Keiko has made a decision that will contribute to her happiness. What is it? She would like to call off the wedding. And
right.
No.
Right.
Oh. And I actually used to use that episodes with some of the teenagers I used to work with in my practice for learning to functionally socialize just a little bit better. We would talk about, so what did Data do here? He followed a logical course.
So the last question is, and I think Data is the answer partly, but are there any characters that you've been compared to, fictional characters that you've been compared to over time?
Let's see.
Oh, KG Glitter, we are not done. Don't touch that dial, but go ahead.
A lot of them. Well, Captain America.
Right.
Captain America being one of them. Vulcans in general.
Yes. Yeah.
I have very strong emotions, but I'm largely stoic on the outside until the emotions are too much, then I shut down. Let's see, what other characters have I been compared? Archer.
Archer. Okay.
In my more mischievous moments. Yeah, definitely. And when I don't have a beard, then
sure. Then you're down. Then I could see it. I could totally see it then.
Well, I'll show you the group cosplay we did in 2014 at PAX. I was, when they told me they didn't have an Archer, and all I had to do was wear a suit and show up and make fun of them. I was like, done.
That's
done.
Adorable. That's adorable.
God, any other fictional characters I've been compared to? Harold Hill in The Music Man. Any used car salesman.
Oh my gosh.
Just trying to think of a couple.
Has anybody compared you to Newt? Has anybody said like, oh, definitely like Newt?
No, not Newt. Not Newt. Largely because masking is so much of a habit at this point that I fit in pretty well for the most part. You hang around with me long enough, you start to see where I'm a half step out of sync with my peers.
Got it.
But I would take Hagrid in a heartbeat.
Ooh, well, you just were compared to Hagrid, so that works out.
I would definitely take Hagrid.
You're my Hagrid, Dr. B.
I'm a hairy wizard. Oh no, I trimmed the beard. Yeah, that's right.
Oh, what?
Oh, I trimmed it. Oh yeah, no, last time you saw me, it was like down to here.
Did I? I don't even notice it anymore. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll show you pictures of when they hashtag saved Dr. Beard, and I colored it purple. It was like out to here.
Wait, I do know that, but I guess I just didn't register that it was that big.
Yeah, no, I trimmed it.
Huh. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being on. I will let you go so that you guys can continue your fundraising on another channel.
Thank you.
Here on Mixer, so we will be stopping by there.
No.
Oh, wait. What? Oops.
No.
No? Okay,
No,
never mind.
we ran into a technical issue.
Oh boy, I didn't realize that. So you are
I
going
didn't
to
tell
be.
about 5 minutes ago.
Oh, so you guys, are you streaming or are you streaming on Twitch?
We are streaming.
It's okay to say you're on Twitch. We say the
We're
name
just
of the other
okay.
one. It's okay.
Just the other one.
The other one, yeah.
The other one.
Okay, got it. It's okay. We say it. It's not like the thing that shall not be named here.
This is not a verboten word.
No, it's believe it or not, it's not here. I think on the other way around though, they wouldn't like it very much. But yeah, thank you. Yes, thank you so much indeed for your honesty and vulnerability. Indeed, them purple people.
Them purple. I think you're all trying to be purple people eaters.
Oh,
Very old novelty song. It's an almost. Good Lord, it's an over 60-year-old novelty song.
Oh my God! Well, congratulations on using that one. Yeah. Can you just call it Purple Mixer?
Yes, we'll be on at TakeThis.org on Purple Mixer.
Yeah, Purple Mixer. You guys are absolutely incredible. Please go check out TakeThis.org. Thank you so much for being on here. Another thanks to Dr. Coward for being on. You guys,
I'll tell her.
Stick around. We are going to continue. I have to finish my postcards live on stream, and then see if we can at least get to the halfway point muscling over there.
Oh, do it. And I'll tell you what, if you do, I will record a story for y'all. But actually, let's say this. You got to go a little beyond the.
We got to go to 150.
Let's say you got to go to 100. $35 more,
okay.
And I will record a short story for y'all.
Okay, $35 more, and you will
$35 more, gang.
All right. We can do this. While I'm coloring cute, adorable baby Yoda, we can do this.
That's awesome.
Thank you again so much for being here.
Thank you.
I appreciate you endlessly. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your night, and good luck to take this with the fundraising.
And good luck, everybody. And well, I should say thank you, everybody, for helping support M and all of our ambassadors.
Oh, you guys are thank you for having ambassadors. You're amazing. Have a wonderful, wonderful night. Bye, Dr. B.
Bye.